I know exactly what you're thinking, and the answer is yes. We are digging into another religious and spiritual analog horror, and I promise you, this one's gonna be really unsettling. Just imagine this for a second. Come on, close your eyes. It's okay. You can trust me. I'm not gonna steal anything from you or anything. Just close your eyes, goddammit! Picture this. You're chilling at home, watching the same episode of The Office on repeat with a little bag of pickles from 7-Eleven as your evening snack. Suddenly, a bright light appears. It's an angel. He doesn't reveal his name to you, however, but you assume he must be friendly. He speaks to you in a calming voice. Be not afraid, for I have a great plan for you. That's weird. This is almost starting to sound like the story of the Archangel Gabriel meeting the Virgin Mary for the first time. Is this guy trying to imitate that? Why didn't he tell you his name? This is kind of, sort of, what happens in the series by Joaquin Bonk. Okay, not really. Maybe I took my own liberties a little bit. But before I get into the analysis here, I really want you guys to go and watch it for yourselves. It's so good. I really need you guys to go support their channel for me. Because according to their bio, they are only 16 years old. And my God, are they talented. I would never be able to come up with something like this at that age. I was doing other things. As always, I'm going to leave a link to their channel down below in the description. Now, let's get right into it, fellas, shall we? Part 1, Start of Anew. This video is only a few seconds long, but as we can see here, the following statement appears on the screen. Rosa comes back, the start of anew. Get ready to cleanse. Now, as I stated before, this series is going to have a great deal of religious and biblical themes specifically. And the name Rosa is actually another nickname that's commonly used for the Virgin Mary. It's also pretty obvious that the face painted in the background is meant to depict Mary as well. But why on earth would she do something like this? Why so foreboding? Our girl would never. Part 2, It Burns. At first glance, we can see nothing but a clearing with a tree in the middle. Suddenly, a very monotonous voice starts to speak.
I have no control. My arms become stiff. My legs paralyzed. And then she takes over. Her presence is like a venom. It stings my skin. It flows through my veins.
Suddenly, a painted face appears, moving in a very unnatural way. At this point, it's safe to assume that Mary is the one that's talking here, and an unseen entity is somehow influencing her choices, like a parasite or something. Part 3, Proditio, or Prodigy in English, is the third episode in the series. This one reveals a great deal of information regarding what might have happened to the real Mary in this scenario. In the description, we receive our first clues. I was promised. Now, this phrase might be simple, but believe me, it reveals a whole lot. Why do I have these on still? I just realized I just finished filming a little gameplay video for the Patreon. Yeah, speaking of which, why aren't you subscribed to it yet? What, you thought I wouldn't notice? What, you don't want to see the new gameplay videos that I record and upload once a week? You don't want to be signed up for future vlogs and other types of content? I thought we had something. I'm keeping my eye on you. This phrase might be simple, but it reveals a whole lot, as there's only a handful of characters in the Bible that would actually say something like this. The same face from before appears, and at this point, it's unclear if this is meant to represent Mary or the entity. The lines kind of get blurred a little bit there. You promised me a good life. You promised me fortune. Next, a Japanese haiku by Indefinite Loop appears, and here's the translation. Hot, From the sun to the sea, summer betrayed spring. Themes of betrayal and potentially jealousy are starting to rear their ugly little heads. And with no warning, this shit appears with Ave Maria playing in the background. Why Mary gotta have those little T-Rex arms, though? They really did her dirty with that, my God. Anyways, the same monotonous voice from before starts to speak. And I'm gonna let this part play out for a second.
It is feeding off of me. A leech that latched itself onto my back. I am its servant now.
Part 4, the messenger angel. Here a slightly different voice begins to speak. And I say slightly different because this time it's whispering. So it's the same voice from before, but it's whisper. Okay. An angel visited me that day. It was wearing white. It had blood on its chest, like how the lady appears to me. First, it smelled of a sweet, sweet smell of roses. Then the angel appeared. It spoke to me. So what the angel say? What the angel doing? More importantly, how the angel doing? Terrible. Terrible. He's fucking awful. Here, you want me to show you? Of course you do. Come and watch this for a second, you fuck.
Dolores, she has a plan for you. Visit her by the tree. You'll feel her. You'll do marvelous things. Disobey and trust her. Entrust yourself to her. Give everything to her. Offer your life to her.
Now, what is the name of a very famous angel that was cast out of heaven? Lucifer. And interestingly, in the Bible, Lucifer is actually described as appearing as very beautiful, so perhaps this is why, he might have been able to mask himself as an angel to Mary. Well, this might come as a surprise to you, but I actually don't think that this is Lucifer. But rather a fallen angel that hasn't been named yet. And I'll explain why in a few. Also, if you guys don't know, Dolores is another name of Mary in the Bible, so that's who the fallen angel is talking to here. It's the same person as Rosa. So if not Satan is only a puppet of the real villain at play here, then who is the villain? Who the fuck is in charge of all of this? Well, let's keep watching to find out. Come along with me on this magical journey. Part 5, Quién eres, or who are you? Wouldn't we all like to know the answer to that question? Please make her stop. She was banished from the garden, and when translated to English, the Spanish words here say something along the lines of, the meeting was very painful. So something bad happened to Mary when she met that bitch outside. Now, if you guys had any inkling of this before, the phrase "she was banished from the garden" should already reveal to you who this entity is, or at least narrow it down quite a bit. But if you guys aren't familiar with biblical lore, then don't worry, because I will be explaining at the end of the video. My time has come. I will reign. The 6th entry in this series, titled Miracle Promise 1, takes us all the way back to that one time where there was a solar eclipse or some shit. Now, the words that you see on the screen here may be written like a Bible verse, but I promise you it is not. It says the following: "Once the moon had birthed the sun, the book of Revelation will come last. For one is destined to arrive soon and prepare salvation for mankind. A cloud will burn and reveal an eye, one that sees and foresees everything. Prepare for the moon will birth again to a lady that will retrieve the eye from the sky. Suddenly an interference occurs and someone else appears to speak. She stole the moon from the lady of the apocalypse. Do not believe her lies. Look at what she did to me. The only thing I want to add here is that the custom written Bible verse could be a perversion of the actual Bible verse from the book of Revelation that depicts the Virgin Mary making her epic comeback. So the book of Revelation chapter 12 verses 1 through 2 says the following. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Can you imagine how fucking terrifying that would be? Like, in all seriousness, like some giant woman trampling the moon while she lets out this animalistic scream. But anyways, if you guys don't know, Mary is often referred to as the Lady of the Apocalypse due to her inclusion in the book of Revelation in that specific chapter. So what other woman could possibly take her place? I stood barefoot. I watched the light. A serpent strikes, unaware that it bit. This is how the final episode in the series begins, and we know that this is Mary talking to whoever the entity is, based solely on the description. The serpent stood higher and taller than me. The serpent shines. Its light burns my eyes. Someone warned me about the serpent. I think he also got deceived by the serpent who speaks. Someone save me from this curse, yet anyone who tries, she prepares their demise. Ooh. Bars, I tell you, bars. The next text that appears is mostly censored. The only thing I can make out is I'm sorry, and the names Samuel and Mary. Before we can even process any of this information, however, the bitch in question decides to show up unannounced. Now, here is where I answer all of your aching questions. Who's this bitch trying to steal Mary's clout? Who the fuck is she? Did we ask for her? Well, it can either be two people. In the Kien Era's video, we know that whoever this person is was banished from the Garden of Eden, which for those of you who aren't familiar with the Bible, this is based on the story from the book of Genesis about some of the very first people that God created who were set to live in this beautiful garden for an indefinite period of time. Most people familiar with this story remember that Adam and Eve were the first people and were set up to live in this garden together, actually, as husband and wife, and that Eve was created from Adam's rib and so on. What many people don't know, however, is that according to some Jewish and Mesopotamian mythology, a woman named Lilith was actually Adam's first wife. Long story short, Lilith and Eve, well, not Lilith and Eve, mainly Eve was banished from the garden, whereas Lilith left voluntarily. Queen. For Eve, it was because the devil disguised himself as a snake and convinced her to eat from this really cool tree that God specifically put in the garden so he could gatekeep. Of course, God kicked her out because those were his apples, goddammit, and she didn't even ask permission, didn't even share. So rude. Now, for Lilith, the story is a bit more nuanced. Unlike Eve, Lilith was created from the same soil as Adam rather than from his rib, and Girly wasn't exactly a fan of having to submit to a man that she barely knew. So she girl bossed herself out of the garden. God didn't even have to kick her out. She just said, fuck that shit. Based queen, we love her. Go get that bag yourself, girly. So I guess the short answer is that the entity could either be Lilith or Eve at this point. But unfortunately, we don't really have solid evidence to back up either, except for a handful of things. For now, based on what little I do know, I'm going to have to say that this entity is probably Eve, based solely on the fact that, yes, Eve was technically banished from the garden and Lilith wasn't. So that already kind of scratches out Lilith for me. And then also this series is largely based on the Catholic faith, or at least themes from Catholicism. And majority of Catholics don't believe in the existence of Lilith as Adam's first wife. Really, Christians in general, most mainstream Christians don't believe in this. They mainly believe that Lilith is some sort of night demon, and they don't really think that she had any association with Adam. So, to each their own, but for that reason, I'm gonna have to lean more in the Eve direction. So what's this beef that Eve and Mary have going on? What's the tea on that? Well, after being evicted from her home and forced to, perform the walk of shame with her estranged husband, I think it's safe to say that Eve was pissed and she's pretty jealous of Mary. Yeah, she's furious and she wants some of what Mary's having. She wants some of that pie. So she convinces this angel, this unnamed angel, to go and help a girl out. She slides him a 50 on Cash App, and they obviously both dupe Mary together all those years ago under that fucking tree out back. Now you're obviously probably wondering who this angel is. Again, I don't fucking know. I still don't fucking know who he is. All I know is that they're not Satan or Lucifer, and here's why. In the very last episode, it is mentioned that the serpent that showed itself to Mary was deceived by the serpent that speaks. We know that only one serpent speaks in the Bible, and that is the depiction of Satan from the Garden of Eden, the one that deceives Eve in the book of Genesis. So that's kind of the overall story that I was able to piece together, in my opinion. Eve lures Mary out to this tree with the help of a friendly demon, and then she latches onto her like a little tapeworm, and of course forces her to do very bad things. So just know, the Lady of the Apocalypse might not be who she seems. She might be the Lilith, or no, she might be the Eve of the apocalypse. Thanks for watching.